Hey everyone, welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin, he's Lincoln. We're recording this on Thursday, July 30th, 1 year until the Olympics possibly kick off in Tokyo. You can email the show FloTrackPodcast at gmail.com. Lincoln, 1 year out, how you feeling?
It's another day closer to sweet relief. No, sorry. That's an inside joke. 1 year out. It feels like there's been a lot of 1 year out announcements. We're
Yep.
1 year out. How many it's only in track and field do we do this, like we're a year away from the actual event that everyone cares about. But it feels good. I guess the clock can start now. But I guess there's obviously differences from when the track competition starts, from when the Olympics start. I have a hard time getting these things organized. I love when the media members and agents tweet out in the last couple weeks or whatever, this was supposed to be my flight to Tokyo. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that tweet's lost its luster. I mean, I guess maybe I'm jealous because I didn't have a plane ticket to Tokyo. Wasn't planning on going, but it's a long-winded.
I photoshopped it.
Yeah.
I went to Orbitz and I created a fake flight just because I wanted to participate, and I put myself on a really, really expensive airline going there, and then coming back, I put myself on Spirit Air just to let people know I can go in both directions. And is there a direct flight? Is there a direct flight from Tokyo to Austin on Spirit Air? Not yet, but I sure as heck hoped.
I would be terrified if that was the case.
Yeah, but yes, this is 1 year out of the track competition. This is 1 year out of the actual track competition. So I wanted to do some predictions 1 year out. We could pick the team, and we might pick the team at some point. We'll have a lot of podcast air to fill, especially when you're gone, and it's just Gordon and I. And I'm really, really hoping that time goes by very quickly. Just kidding. But I wanted to throw some things out there, and I have three predictions. You have three predictions. Mine aren't particularly bold. Mine aren't particularly like, oh, these are some things that are completely off the map. But I'm curious to hear yours and how crazy you went with your three 1 year out predictions.
Well, you sent me yours this morning. So on a scale from yours to Gordon's typical Emmanuel career is going to run 139, there's somewhere in the middle, I feel like.
Okay, good.
Yeah, there's somewhat in the middle, but there's a little boldness to mine, I would say. So we'll have fun discussing them, I guess.
Yeah, no, not I guess. We will. We're going to actually have fun discussing this. I'm sitting on a floor in an empty house right now that I'm moving out of, by the way. If I sound a little different or if I look a little different, I'm going to have the podcast studio up and running in the new place pretty soon. I know you're potentially moving into a very expensive shed that you had constructed just, I think you're calling it the Audio Palace. Is that right? The Audio Palace?
Yeah, it's the world's most expensive podcast studio. It's actually per download, it's definitely the most expensive podcast studio of all time. I think it's about $6 per download. Hopefully, we've had a little trouble getting the Wi-Fi to extend out to there. Even got a new router and haven't yet got that all set up. But it is definitely possible. Are you going to? You're moving out of this house? I assume your lease is up at the end of the month, which is Saturday.
Tomorrow.
Are you going to take the Will Smith photo or the Will Smith gif of yourself looking around like at an empty house? Or
it's funny because my son wanted to take a picture in every room before we left as a way to remember it, but he took a picture when all the stuff was gone, and it doesn't. I don't know if it looks as interesting as he hoped it would.
Right.
So, but that scratched my itch. I'm not going to forget what this house looked like. We have plenty of pictures. That gift's been in heavy rotation this year, though, with everything being canceled and social distancing being at the front of everybody's mind. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's jump into these, though. I will allow you to go first. I sent you two of my three this morning. I have a mystery one, which I will unveil at some point. Just I didn't want to
This
give
is
you
good.
all my information, but I did want to give you two of them so that way you don't pick the same ones that I do. What is your? We can alternate here. What is your first bold
Yeah.
prediction about what will happen in Tokyo?
Yeah, we'll start this with the caveat that yesterday on yesterday's show I was on the record saying that I'm bad at predictions. So take these all with a grain of salt. My first one though is that Christian Coleman's going to win the 100-meter Olympic title, and that wouldn't normally be bold, but of course he's facing a suspension to miss the Olympics. I think he's going to find a way. I don't know through what means, but track always has a way to. I don't know. I don't want to say not bend the rules. That's not the word I'm looking for. But, we looked at Deja Stevens' 1.5-year suspension and thought, oh, that could be applied to Coleman. But I don't know. I just get this feeling he's going to be suspended for a year. And track doesn't have the same thing as other sports where seems like there's different rules for higher profile athletes, like maybe you would see in the NBA or whatever regarding like refereeing and whatnot. But I don't know. I just feel like they're going to find a happy medium and suspend him for a year, which will allow him to compete in trials and therefore the Olympics. I just have a hard time believing he's completely going to miss the Olympic Games. That's taken out one of the biggest names in the sport, regardless of what you think of his whereabouts case. But that's the long-winded way for me to say I think he's going to be there. And if he's there, he's a huge favorite. And I'm picking him for 100-meter gold.
Yeah, the bold part of that prediction is him being there. I think everybody would agree. He's an enormous favorite. This would not have been a bold prediction a couple months ago, but it turns into a bold prediction because you're basically making a prediction regarding the Kaz decision at this point, which you've always been big at and good at accurate at nailing those Kaz suspensions and what they decide to do, regardless of the topic.
And that's basically what I've been spending my day throughout the last couple of months. I'm talking to my sources in and out of Kaz all day. They haven't been very reliable because I haven't been able to report anything. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm not basing this off of anything I know other than it's going to be a controversial decision one way or the other. And I feel like a happy medium, not happy, but a medium decision is suspending him for the year. And then he gets to compete at the Olympics. I feel like with all that has gone on, especially in the US, I mean, we've had this coronavirus and it's brutal right now and has been for months. We're going to have an election. I think people concerned about Christian Coleman being at the Olympics or not being at the Olympics, I feel like that's going to be on the bottom of the list. And that shouldn't have anything to do with Kaz, especially since they're not constructed of American people. But I'm winding myself into a Gordon-like take here. But I feel like the outcome is going to be having him compete in the Olympic Games. I think there's going to be a little bit different standard for him than maybe some other athletes that aren't the reigning world champion.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll go to my first one. And my bold prediction, Grant Holloway is going to break the high hurdle record in the Olympic final. He, of course, went under 13 seconds last year, then went on to win the world title. But 2021, if things go to plan, will be the first year we see Grant Holloway, where he's primarily focused on one event as a professional. Add that into the fact that he is the consummate big meet performer. I think dropping a couple tenths off his best time is certainly well within reason. And I think we're going to see the first ever 12.7 in men's high hurdle history in that Tokyo final.
That's so fast. And yes, as whatever he was last year, a 21-year-old running 12.98 and then coming back to win the world title, you have ample proof that he's a big time performer. Man, I have the most trouble clearing my throat on this show every single time. 12.7 is a ridiculously fast time. I mean, Merritt's time, the 12.80, is not huge, but a pretty big outlier, right? I think the next fastest time would be 12.87. So this is certainly a bold prediction. And what Merritt ran that time in 2012, and have there been any 12.80 performances since then? I don't think so. No. Not 12.80.
We get really we get really excited when you see anything under 13 seconds now. 12:09 is enough to get you off your seat.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think Holloway's 12:98 was the only sub 13 last year, and there's some dudes in the hurdles right now. Obviously, with McLeod still there, and Shavenkov, and Pascal, and so it's not a weak event. But yeah, that is a tough time to crack. He is going to have to come out on fire next year, and I think regularly be breaking 13 seconds for me to think that's a possibility. For all the hurdle events, for you to choose a world record, I feel like you chose the least likely one. Why did you go that route?
Well, because we wanted some element of boldness. Saying Dalilah Muhammad or Sidney McLaughlin is going to break the women's 400-meter hurdle record, I think that's expected. I think it's expected that Warholm, Benjamin, or Samba is going to break the 400-meter hurdle record next year, and all Kenny Harrison has to do is PR, and she has the world record. Of the four, it's the least likely, but it made it the best candidate for what we're picking today. And I think we're not giving enough weight to the fact that Grant Holloway last year was on month 9 of racing in a very hectic, weird year where he does so many events. And now we're seeing him focus 100% on one event. I think that's going to be worth some time. So is just him getting his feet wet and being consistent at the professional level. Now, Merritt's time, you're right, was an outlier. That was a big jump up. So I think as long as he goes into Tokyo with any sort of PR, maybe he runs 12:95 at USA's or 12:92 on the Diamond League, I think it's still in play that we could see that big jump when it comes time to Tokyo. Now, we don't know the track, right? And that's always a big question mark in these meets. You were there in Beijing for that 398-meter track that they rolled out there. And every single time was very, very quick. Not all of them, but there were enough to where you're wondering, okay, man, the surface is really, really helping athletes. Doha, you could say, oh, it's super fast because look at the distance times that people put out there. But then you could point to other events and say, well, maybe it wasn't that quick. And obviously the wind wasn't a factor there because it was so walled in. So with that caveat aside, assuming a normal standard track, I think he's gonna do it. He's gonna be the first one under 1280. Just a massive talent, and now we're finally seeing him put that into one event with his full focus, full time. Grant Holloway, 1279, Tokyo, book it.
Wow. That's I think that might be the boldest. I mean, you have a mystery prediction coming up later, which I'm super excited for, but 1279, if that happens, I almost want to put myself on record to do something. I don't know what, because then if I say I'll shave my head, it will like absolutely happen. So I don't want to necessarily do that, but 1279.
Will you run to Gainesville?
Yeah. That's on par with, to me, like, I don't know what would be like Bekele's 10,000 meter record. Like running 1279 is absurd. It is just absolutely crazy to me.
All right, what do you got next?
I mean, I made this prediction before, but I'm going to stick to it. It just allows us to talk about the event in more detail. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to draw out good content. I'm going back to the Michael Norman, going under 43 seconds. When you run 986 at the AP meet and you're not a 400-meter runner, that converts to like a 42.5, if my calculations are correct.
And your made-up calculator that you have, yes.
Yeah. So I don't think Michael Norman's going to run 42.5, and I know that 43.03 is, if I'm talking about huge outliers, that one's obviously a massive one. But I think last year he was really injured, and it was. I'm just gonna retire my voice.
Speaking of
injured, I think last year he was really injured at USA's. Yeah, really injured. I'm just done. Really injured.
Do you want to get some water? Do you want to get some water? Yeah. We can do a water break here. We can go full screen with me, and then Lincoln can get some water here.
We got the cup.
He's got the coffee. Folks, he's only on cup number 1. And if you were in Doha with Lincoln like I was,
Mhm.
the man basically had an IV of coffee attached to him at all times. He checked into a medical center there on the first day, and he said he needed a line that is just going to uh, uh, just directly inject caffeine into his body. And that's what he did for
Yeah,
10 days.
yeah. No, I mean, we've discussed this many times. I miss Doha for many reasons. One of them primarily is the food service at 3 a.m. and also just not knowing what the coronavirus was. That was nice.
All right,
But
let's start over
University-
from the top. Let's start over. Michael Norman.
Okay.
Here we go. Hit me
Okay,
with
so
it.
we're going 400-meter prediction. Michael Norman is the first man to break 43 seconds. He's going to break Wade Van Niekerk's record. We looked at his potential last year, but now he's only gotten better. He's run 986 in the 100 in basically an off year. I think he was greatly reduced last year because of whatever the injury was that he never exactly wanted to specify, although he said it was a strain. He really kept that close to the chest, so we're not exactly sure what was going on. But we have not even close seen the best of Michael Norman. I don't think it was a fluke that he opened the season with a 43.45 last year. Of course, you're not going to run faster every single time, but this is by no means as fast as he can go. 400-meter runners don't run 19.7 and 986. Wade Van Niekerk's the greatest of all time, and he's only run 19.8 and 990 something. Well, Norman's way faster in those other events, and his primary event is the 400. I believe he's going to go faster if he's in peak form, and I think he's going to run something just a shade under 43 seconds. It seems impossible because you look at somebody like Michael Johnson and what he ran, and then to have Van Niekerk go well under that in Rio. But that's what the Olympics do. They bring out in these sprint events times that you otherwise don't think are humanly possible, right? And we saw that somewhat in Doha and with the distance events, and you mentioned Beijing. These tracks are only getting faster. These Mondo surfaces are changing the game as far as how fast things can run. And I think with this extra year of preparation, everything to me seems going in Norman's favor to break the world record.
This prediction, like your other prediction, is one of those that, okay, let's rewind to April 2019. Wouldn't have been would not have been that bold, right? Would not have been that bold. When Norman ran 43.45. I think people thought last year he would go into Doha and drop a sub 43. That seemed like it was a possibility, but then everything has changed between now and then. He seems to be back to where he was last year and is more in Mount Sac 43.45 shape than the form we saw at the end of the year. But it's interesting just how quickly things change, both with the Coleman pick and then now with the Norman pick. Because it would have been like, okay, great, Lincoln, he's going to drop 4/10 off of his PR from a Mount Sac meet where he basically just ran against Ray Benjamin and that was it. Like that's not crazy. That's not asking too much. But we saw last year how he struggled towards the end.
Yeah, and I like I said, I think he was pretty hurt. I mean, I don't think a competitive guy like him is running that semifinal in Doha that way. And he said, he felt something like a warning sign and he didn't want to take it further. He's not doing that unless he's really, really hurt. And for whatever reason, he wants to keep that stuff to himself and not share that, maybe for competitive advantage or who knows what. But no, it's become more bold because he didn't end the year the way he wanted to, or the way everyone thought he was going to, where it was going to be a year where he was just going to march through the 400 and not have any competition. But let's remember, other than USA's where he lost to Fred Curley, and by the way, Fred Curley had to run 43.6 to beat him. He was dominating the 400. He was beating Curley all the time, and nobody was coming close to him. Now, granted, Stephen Gardner, the eventual world champion, I don't think they raced all year, and he ran 43.4 and will be a worthy competitor. But I don't think anyone can deny that if everyone's at 100%, Norman is at a completely different level, and that includes the new 100% for whatever Wade Van Niekerk has. I don't think his 100% is going to be Rio 100% just based on how much time it's been, and obviously that ACL injury. But this one truly feels like it's going to happen. I mean, we talk about what's the chances Lyles breaks 1919, and what's the chance Brazier runs under 140.91. Those are like, those are dreams, basically. Those are way more unlikely to happen than likely. This one has at times felt inevitable, and then now all of a sudden it's like, oh, God, we don't really know what we have with Michael Norman. Well, we do. We really know that this is a guy who can start off a year running 43.4, and if you do that, you should be able to cut that down throughout the duration of the season. So anyways, long-winded way of saying that, explaining that is actually a bold prediction, but is something that I think people should still expect to happen.
He was hurt his first year at USC, if you remember that, right? And then he came back and had the crazy sophomore year. But he missed time. He missed some time his first year. And then with the injury last year, you'd maybe start to get worried that this is a pattern. But do you know what you don't do if you're worried about getting injured and you're out 400-meter runner? You know what you definitely do not sign up to do? Run an all-out 100 in a non-championship year. I think that is a very clearly a good sign that he's confident in where his body is at. I always assumed it was a hamstring just because when someone talks about a strain as a sprinter, that's where your mind immediately goes. Hamstring injuries are notoriously persistent and stubborn. And I know he mentioned it for the first time bothering him at USA's or leading up to USA's. Remember, he said he really didn't get any workouts in. It wouldn't surprise me at all if something he picked up in July was still there in October. But two sprint predictions for you, Lincoln. 2 sprint predictions.
Yeah.
Do you know that there's just other events?
I do know that there's other events. I'm tired of the distance events. I don't like them anymore. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Maybe you can bring back the distance races, or even a field event if you'd like. I mean,
I'm going to go distance. I'm going to go distance, and I'm going to go with something that I've said before, but not everybody listens to every podcast. Not everybody likes the title of every podcast. Some people on the show think we should title things just based on one sentence that the guest says, like Donovan Brazier's running Monaco. I mean, just a thrilling and compelling title. An American woman is going to medal in the 5,000 for the first time in history. And I said that before this year started, just based on how Schweizer finished last year and also what we saw. I might have even said it before indoor started, but definitely after indoor, it really picked up momentum. And I thought we were eventually going to see someone crack through and get it. We don't know what Houlihan's going to do. Obviously, she would be the main contender to do it. But if she doesn't, you have someone there in Schweizer who now has the closing speed and the personal best to run with anybody outside of Sifan Hassan in the world. I would put 20, and we haven't seen Sifan Hassan this year, so I'll say 2019 Sifan Hassan. So you put her in one category. You know, Obiri is right there as well, but Obiri doesn't have the upside as Sifan Hassan. And in a tactical race, I could see Schweizer being right there with both of them. But I think somebody from the U.S. is going to medal for the first time in major championship history. Hasn't happened at a World Championships, hasn't happened at Olympics. At the Olympics, it's the only distance event where that has not happened, and that will change in Tokyo.
Now, a couple things to clear out here. Yeah, not exactly a bold prediction after 2 women run 14:20 in the same race. So I'm not criticizing the pick, but this is a good one because no one's ever done this. The American woman hasn't medaled at Worlds or at the Olympics in the 5,000.
Which they ran the 3,000 for a while, which that's part of it too. In the Olympics, they ran the It's a newer event.
Another thing, Sifan Hassan in a Monaco preview article was quoted as saying that, she was planning, if the Olympics were this year, and maybe she's still planning, to run the 1,500 5K double in Tokyo.
I don't think she knows the schedule. Remember, we played this game last year. She didn't know the schedule.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because obviously that comes with a conflict. There's a 1,500 meter round the day before the 5,000 meter final, or no, the day of. Is it the day of?
Day of. It's in the morning.
Yeah,
It's in
it's
the
the day of.
morning. Yeah. No,
So
that's not happening.
maybe,
That's not happening.
yeah, maybe it's not happening. But still, yeah, 5K, 10K double could be on the table. So that take makes it a little bit tough. And then you're calling Obiri. It seems like you're downplaying her skills as the reigning 2-time defending world champion. I mean,
She
she's
didn't. No, Sifan Hassan was
no.
the 5,000 meter champion last year. I'm sorry, she was. She was. If you win the fit, we talked about this. Did we? Oh no, wait, it was on another podcast. I talked about this. I get my podcast confused. If you win the 15 and you win the 10, you are the 5,000 meter gold medalist.
That's how that
by
works.
default.
Yes.
Yes, you've covered it.
I think when you look at the 5K, it's come for let's just assume it's Schweizer. You're looking at Hassan, Obiri, maybe like another Ethiopian athlete, or because I think the Kenyans are for the most part. I mean, there's some good athletes, but they're going to be focused on the 10 and maybe don't have that 5K speed. My point being, it's if Hassan runs, it's Hassan, Obiri, Constance Klosterhoffen, an Ethiopian, and then probably an American. So I think it's about 5 people that are going to be fighting for the medals. There's not too many people that are running in the 1420s, and obviously Schweizer now is one of them. And so you can make the argument now she's right on the level of Klosterhoffen, who got a bronze last year in Doha. So certainly it's a possibility. And I think you can safely say that Schweizer is ascending at a faster rate than maybe any of those other women. So there's a chance, she's running in the 14 teens this time next year. So her potential is certainly through the roof. That said, it's obviously going to be close. I mean, it's tough to win a medal, and she's in the position though now where it feels like kind of like what Rupp was in the 10,000. Well, he's going to be there in the last lap, but is he going to have this? Is he going to have the kick? He had it in London, and then he didn't have it the rest of his career in the 10,000. It's all about that finishing speed. But you feel enough to, and this is a big step forward, obviously, because American women have not been super competitive in the 5,000 throughout the years on the championship stage. But you feel confident when somebody's run 14:26. Yeah, they're going to be there in the last lap. It's just a matter of, do they beat 2 or 3 people to get on the medal stand? So that in itself has been a remarkable progression, though, because like I said, it's been a long time since basically ever, that we've considered that there's going to be a 5,000 meter American woman on the podium.
These are the exact conversations we were having 5-10 years ago about the steeplechase and about the 10,000, like you mentioned it, where it was, let's just look at the numbers. Okay, so there'll be 3 Kenyans there in the men's steeplechase. There'll be Makisi, and then there'll be Jager. Okay, so he already starts out with, at max, there's going to be 4 guys who could beat him. So he really, of those 4, he only needs to beat 2 of them, and he's on the medal stand. Same thing with the women. And now we're playing that game with the 5,000. And the fact that you said, okay, there's going to be, at worst, Hassan, Obiri, Coco, maybe one other person from Ethiopia. Heck, even throw both Ethiopians. When you start off with, the worst I'm going to do is 6th, and then you add in injuries, you add in other event selections, that is how you get medals out of these events, is you start with that. Whereas before it was, okay, these 3 from Ethiopia, 3 from Kenya are going to beat, their PRs are 20 seconds faster. So they're all Sifan Hassans to the previous generation of women trying to run the 5,000. So there's only really one untouchable out there, as opposed to having 6 untouchables. Yeah. And that's why I'm confident that they're going to get it done, whether or not it's Shelby or somebody else. Look at that women's 10,000 with Enfeld getting a medal, with Flanagan, Goucher getting medals. And when Enfeld got the medal, obviously Huddle was right behind. So they went 3-4 in that race. And I think we're going to start to see something similar in the women's 5. let's go to your third and final prediction. Let's see what event you're going to talk. Are you talking about the men's 200? You've covered the men's 100 and the men's 400. Are you going to go men's 200 here?
This one covers both genders, and this one's going to be. This one could be ugly. I just letting you know. My prediction is that there's not going to be an Olympic Games. I know.
Okay,
That's not popular,
come on. That was not the game. Come on, come up with a better pick. Come up with a better prediction. This is if the Olympics are happening. No, we're not going to let you do that.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Next, go to next prediction. Not eligible. Sorry, you've been suspended from this podcast for the next 90 seconds. I'll do my mystery one. I'll do my mystery one to give you time to recoup. Okay, listen. The U.S. men are going to clean up, absolutely clean up in these Olympics if they happen. They're going to win the 100-meter gold, whether or not Coleman is there or not. Noah Lyles is going to win the 200. Noah Lyles is going to win the 200. Michael Norman is going to win the 400. Grant Holloway is going to win the high hurdles. Rai Benjamin is going to win the low hurdles. Donovan Brazier is going to win the 800. They're going to win the 4x1, and then they're going to win the 4x4. They're going to win. American men are going to win gold in everything: relays, individual events, 800 and under.
Yeah.
Am I being American centric? Yes. Is this a possibility?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. It's a huge possibility. I mean, for one, it already happened. And I was thinking about, it happened last year in the 1, the 2, the 8, the 4x4, and the 4x1, and the 110. So we're only missing the 400?
Literally, and the 4 hurdles, which is the 4 hurdles is probably, that's probably the hardest one because you got to get through Warholm and Samba. But I think Benjamin's going to have a response this year to Warholm.
He was
Warholm's going to slap himself so hard. Warholm's going to slap himself so hard that he has trouble finding his way to the first hurdle. One of the two.
I saw on the Monaco website there was like a feature story with him, and he's like out golfing. I think he's got a little passive. Once I see Carson Warholm out there playing golf, and he's not just at his apartment just screaming at himself in front of the mirror, I think he's lost a little bit of his edge, right? No, I'm just kidding. There's an argument though for Benjamin to be even better because he showed us all the video in Doha of him wiping out on a hurdle. That said, Warholm was still fantastic last year and would have been tough to beat anyways. But yes, there's certainly an argument for Benjamin being a much better version of himself in 2021 than he was last year. I feel like ever since Beijing, when the U.S. had an abysmal performance, everything's been trending up. Rio was good for the Americans, and London, I don't know, not as good. But then of course you have Doha, where they were fantastic on the men's side, even winning the 4x1. Which when the U.S. wins the 4x1, it unlocks a whole new level. It's like all of a sudden the monkey's off the back and anything is possible. Win the 10,000, yeah, sure, why not? That's possible. Winning the marathon, probably not possible. But who knows? It's just the 4x1 was the ultimate, like, get the monkey off the back, and they did that. And obviously winning as many other events as they did too last year. It feels very real that they go on a hot streak and sweep all those events.
Yeah, the odds of something going wrong obviously are very, very high. But you extend it into the other events, though, even the ones I didn't mention, like the 1500. Okay, Timothy Cheruiyot's going to come in as a huge favorite, but the U.S. will have medal threats. Steeplechase, if Jager's back, the U.S. will have medal threats, and obviously Bohr and Kabini were pretty solid last year. You have Chalimo in the 5,000, Lemong in the 10,000. You really have a situation where there are no weak spots. Obviously, you go to the field events, and then you have people like Christian Taylor, Will Clay, Kovacs, Krauser, Kendricks. Like, it didn't used to always be this way. People might think that, especially if they just started paying attention to track. There were whole events where the U.S. was a complete afterthought, and they'd show the final, and they might get one person in the final, and they do the cutaway of, and here's so-and-so moving up to 11th at the bell lap.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not the case anymore. And then you go to the women, obviously they'll have competitive people in the 1, the 2, the 4, The 8, they'll have both favorites, or two of the favorites. The 15, they'll have one of the favorites. Steeple, they have a world champion. We already talked about the 5. The 10,000, they'll have people. They've medaled there before. Both hurdle events, they could sweep both hurdle events. They could sweep the women's 4 and the women's high hurdles, which was going to be one of my bold predictions, but I went the other direction. Marathon, obviously, they'll be fine. Their field events are solid too. But yeah, there's not really any weak, very weak spot. Like there's in every event, there's okay, this person has there's at least one American who has a chance to medal that's greater than 1%.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, I'm old enough even to remember when it was the U.S. was the also rans and a lot of, obviously not the sprints, but the distance events. It's been a whole wave of change, and that we've definitely gotten spoiled. In some ways, you almost missed that. It was like when you're the first person to hear of a band, it's a little special, and then they become mainstream, and you're like, they're not as cool anymore. And so I think back to the mid 2000s, it was cool. The shot, well, I mean, we had Bernard Lagat, of course, and he's our medalist. But it's like the chance. It's like all I got to do is get in the final, and now it's like we know everyone's going to be in the final. It's just the whole different game. Yeah. But I miss some levels of the underdog in the U.S. distance events that we no longer have. That said, it's kind of more fun now. But there's some elements that I miss from the 2004 Olympics whenever we didn't have people making the finals and whatnot. So anyways,
you want the early Modest Mouse. You don't want late Modest Mouse is what you're saying.
I don't even listen to the late Modest Mouse. I mean, I think I've outgrown Modest Mouse. I'm
well, do you remember people lost their mind? People lost their mind when Manzano got a silver in the 1500. If an American got a silver in Tokyo in the 1500, the track world would be okay. I mean, I guess part of it depends on who it was. If it was Centro, you'd say, oh, that makes sense. I could see that happening. I guess if it was Engels, it would be a little more of a shock, or somebody else, it would be a little bit different. But there's nothing. The U.S. reached the point where there's no result, there's no event that they can win that causes you to shake your head in disbelief. Like once the women went 1-2 in the steeple, all bets were off at that point.
Yeah. That one was a big turning point. I mean, it did feel like things started to change. I mean, even going back to Jenny Simpson's world title in 2011, that for me felt like a turning point.
That was such a stunner, though. That was such a shock. Like that was such you'd call it a Cinderella story in other sports, because she didn't come in with a high seed or anything like that. It was just a crazy confluence of events that led to that. I guess the only surprising stuff now is related to individual matchups. It's not, they don't belong in that event. But if an American man beats Kipchoge in the marathon, that would be stunning. Or when people beat Bolt, that's like a whoa. Or if Brazier goes in the 1500 or Centro in the 1500 and they take down Cherry, that would make us sit up and go, oh man. But there's no event that's off limits now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe still the men's marathon, but we'll see.
They medaled in Rio. What do you mean? Medal.
Yeah. I meant gold. I mean, we're here in the expectation of gold.
Well, that's because Kipchoge. If I told you right now that Eliud Kipchoge won't be in Tokyo, like he retires, he decides, guys, coronavirus, I'm not doing it anymore. How many people have better odds of winning gold than Galen Rupp at the marathon? Because we can play that game again, right? We can play that exact game we just did. There'll be 3 guys from Kenya, 3 guys from Ethiopia. But is anybody from one of the other countries going to beat him? I mean, I'm sure there will be somebody who has a good day, but who would be a bigger odds-on favorite?
Yeah,
than Rupp? Maybe a couple people, and then all it takes is him having a good day.
Yeah, I mean, he's already qualified, so that obviously helps. As the
That
rest of the
helps. Yeah.
field contenders, we don't know who's going to be there. I guess Kipchoge um, already been named to the team, but who knows if Athletics Kenya is going to change that
Right.
or what. But yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. I just look at Kipchoge as somebody who's going to retire in 15 years, so I don't think
Mm-hmm.
he's stopping anytime soon. Okay, you've rejected my previous bold prediction because it
Mm-hmm.
involved a cancellation of the Tokyo Games, and I
And it
guess
wasn't
people
bold
aren't
either. It's not bold. It's not bold.
okay.
That's the other why.
Fine,
That's the other reason it was rejected. It was rejected for several reasons.
yeah,
It's like when you write something in the CMS and it pops up red in like 3 different fields. That's what happened with
that's
your
exactly what that
your
was.
poll
Okay,
prediction.
fair enough, fair enough. Well, I'm going to go to the men's distance side. I guess all my picks are male, so sorry about that. Did not intend for that. I promise I cover the women's sport and value it greatly, but I don't think this guy gets talked about enough. Joshua Cheptegei is, I think, going to be a legend in the 5 and the 10. He didn't do the 5 at last year's World Champs, but I think next year he wins. And this is going outside the Olympics, but I think he win. I'm seeing the World XC news, so I'm trying to bring something in. I think he repeats as World XC champion. I think he wins the 5 and the 10 at the Tokyo Olympic Games.
Well, that's actually canceled. That's going to be canceled. That if you want to talk about cancellations, they're talking about how they want to postpone that. So that's going to be hard for him to win.
Okay, now hold on here. Postponed to what? 2022?
Oh, I would get. Well, the calendar gets so crowded. If you start pushing it back, you don't want to put it anywhere near the Olympics. I guess you could put it in November or December, but I don't know. Anyway, we're not supposed to be talking about World XC. We're talking about the Olympics. So your pick is that Cheptegei's going to win the 5 and the 10?
I'm just making the point that I think he's going to have a run on the distance events next year, and I was just adding on a little icing to the cake. But basically my bold prediction, which isn't that bold because my bold prediction was, as you said, marked up with red and was not accepted by the publisher. I am going with him going to win the 5 and the 10. It's not a bold pick, but winning both events is a very difficult thing to do. We were spoiled by Mo Farah, and the 5 is a pretty good event right now on the men's side. When you talk about the Ethiopian guy, I can't think of his name, that has won the last 2 world titles. Cheptegei, we haven't seen his best, so I'm excited to see what he can do, and I think he wins both events pretty handily.
All right. I mean, that I can't reject that one because technically it is a prediction, but it's better than your last one. But I mean, a 5-10 double, is that what we've resulted to now?
Listen, sometimes.
How many times does a 5-10 double not happen? I feel like a 5-10 double happens more than it doesn't happen.
Listen, I was on a breakaway dunk, and I just decided to lay it up instead of slam it home. Okay? It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. I couldn't think of anything else. I was trying. I want to go. I'm full. Emmanuel Career is going to run 139, but I just can't. I can't defend those takes. I can't say Shelby Houlihan's going to run 345. Like I don't have that in me anymore. Like those are, you can't support those arguments. So
what do you think?
Really know.
What do you think Stefan Hassan does?
Yeah, well, with the schedule, I think she probably comes back and does the 15 and the 10 again. The 5-10 is way too boring. But I don't think it's that outrageous for me to say, oh, I think she's going to break the world record in the 1500 in the final because she was whatever, a second and a half or, something coming back. And, all it would take for her to do that, it would seem like in the 15 is get out to a little bit better start. She kind of lagged at the beginning of that 1500 last year in Doha and then still ended up running 351.9 or whatever. So it's not a reach to say she's going to break the 1500 world record in the final. And then in the 10,000, I mean, that last year was a walk and it was her second 10K ever. I don't think she's going to break the world record in that event. That's not to her advantage. But of course, I expect her to sweep those events again. Now, that being said, she's not with Alberto Salazar anymore, so she's going to have to endure a coaching change. And it seems like she's not in Portland anymore. Do we have any more information on that? I've been confused about.
I thought she was. I thought she was getting coached by an assistant coach with the group formerly known as the Nike Warrior Project.
Okay. It may have been Is it Roberry?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
So I guess that's a possibility. She's not with Julian's group, but that's I guess not. That's a separate thing now. Okay. Uh, but again, that didn't even. We've seen this, right? We've seen Hassan do this, and it's fun to talk about her.
Yeah.
But it felt like this is she set the bar now. This is the expectation, is that she's going to sweep both these events, and it's ridiculous. But also, if you watch track and field, Sifan Hassan is ridiculous. You know, she runs the world record in the mile, and then she wins the 10,000. I mean, it's just this is what she does.
I looked it up. There hasn't been a 5'10" men's double at the Olympics since 2016.
When's the last time it was done by somebody from Uganda, though, Kevin?
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Statman Lincoln over here, just going for the crown. 2 minutes left. Do you want to plug your interview that's going up tomorrow?
Right. Spoke with Raven Rogers yesterday. Talked about the famous Bowerman Towerman. I did not call it the Bowerman Towerman. We talked about why she went to Pete Julian's group. She threw out some conspiracies about her form. No, I'm just kidding. She did not do that. We talked about her art. And we all know, well, some of us know my wife's an artist. You can see the painting behind my head. And we bonded, Raven and I bonded over art things. And Kevin, your name even got brought up because we were talking about, I felt she was a good person to discuss old Hayward versus new Hayward. And she said she understood your take, but she said the track is the exact same, which I thought was interesting. She said it feels the same way. You can still see the dorms coming off the curve. It just happens that there's a spaceship where bleachers used to be. She said the seats are very comfortable. You're going to find them much more accommodating for your behind than the bleachers. So she sold me on that. You'll have to give it a listen to see. But I brought up the fact that, you know, you're an Oregon guy, or at least, you know, you went to Oregon. Your parents live in the Eugene area. It was tough to watch the old Hayward go down. She felt the same way, but then she went to the new stadium. I imagine that your face up on a giant tower helped. So maybe she's not the most reliable source in that sense, but she gives good answers about her opinion of new Hayward versus old Hayward.
Good. All right. Well, that'll be up tomorrow in the morning. You can check it out. And then we will be off Mondays, and we'll be back on, unless there's something crazy that happens. But actually, there might be something crazy happening, because we have another sprint meet today that's going on right now. And then we also have the final BTC meet. So perhaps we'll be back Monday to do an emergency audio.
What's the tournament going on today?
Oh, are we in Florida or are we in Texas? We're doing something.
Which hotspot are we at this week?
We're back to the track again, Lincoln, is what we're doing.
That's Florida.
We are at, let me see. Back to the track. We are in Prairie View A&M. So not too far from us.
That's Texas. Yep. Yeah. Cool.
That is definitely Texas. And then, yes, and the BTC meet, is going on Friday. So if there's emergency stuff, we'll probably do an audio only one on Monday, and then we'll be back with video. Next week, it'll probably be Gordon and I forever in perpetuity, because Lincoln is having a second child, and as someone who has had a second child, doesn't get easier. Does not get easier. Good luck with that, Lincoln.
We're on baby watch full time here. So it's getting real. Exciting times. Sleep overrated. We'll
get that IV
find
back.
out. Yeah, I'm gonna have to buy the coffee maker they had at the World Champs. So I'll let you know how that goes. But yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Alon, for producing. We'll talk to you guys then.